All through this COVID thing, we were lied to by the media. The media is supposed to be the referee. The media is supposed to be the one that protects our interests. They're supposed to make sure that government does the right thing. And when our country started off with a free press, at least the press was supposed to be free. But now the press is owned by many of organizations that don't seek after our interests, and they get financial incentives from our enemies. One of the largest contributors to the press is pharmaceuticals, the pharmaceutical industry. So when this COVID thing came on, they suppressed much of the information the public needed to know. I want you to watch this video. Listen to what this lady says. I think her name is pronounced Fan Shan Stinger. She was working in that industry. Look what they tried to make her do.
How did Anthony Fauci use his media platform to mislead you, your family, and basically the whole world? Well, he did it by using the media to omit critical life-saving information. Let's start with this.
The same day you say there's no evidence, there was all kinds of evidence. You had a interview on CNN on August 29th of 2021, where, again, I just don't want to take time to find the exact quote, but you said there's no evidence. There's no evidence that ivermectin is helpful. On that exact same day, and I've got the studies right here. There was a website that was tracking the random controlled studies. Here they are, showing 60, 70% efficacy of ivermectin. The same day you say there's no evidence, there was all kinds of evidence.
And you weren't told that by the media, were you? That data, it was there the whole time. And those of us who knew it, who were studying it, they wouldn't let us report it. In fact, here's how it happened. I was anchoring a newscast that very same month, and we had a story on ivermectin. When I read through the script of the story on the set, there was critical information that was missing. There was no mention that ivermectin studies showed 67% effectiveness. There was no mention that doctors were prescribing it more and more because it was working. There was no mention that ivermectin was causing the COVID rates to drastically drop in other countries. And there was no mention that ivermectin got the Nobel Prize for Medicine because of its safety, and it got that award in 2015. I added all of those points to the script to make sure the story was balanced and it had actual facts with the other side. What was there was only a doctor who said he wouldn't use ivermectin on his patients, and there was a lady who was standing next to a horse saying that ivermectin was used on her horses and she would never use it on people. Again, no mention of the studies you just saw or the fact that people were actually suing hospitals at that point, forcing the hospitals to use ivermectin to save their loved ones because hospitals were refusing to use it. After I added the facts and the balance of that story, I got the surprise of my career. I'm telling you, this has never happened to me in my career. My news director came into the studio at that point and he asked, "Why did you change the script?" I told him, I changed it because it was not balanced and there were facts that were missing in the story. It was misleading. "It's been changed," he said, "and you will read what's in the prompter." He looked at me and he pointed his finger. He said, "You will read what's in the prompter." First thing out of my mouth, "No, I will not." He said, "You will read what's in the prompter." I said, "No, I will not." I said, "Someone else could read the story, but it is not going to be me, because if I read that story, I'd be responsible for omitting information." And that was one of many battles that I had in that newsroom. And guess what? Sadly, someone else did read that story that day, 3 times. So here's the question. Why didn't they want you to know about ivermectin? Let's break it down. The shot was released, if you'll remember, on an emergency authorization order. In order to do that, there cannot be any other drug on the market that would be effective against COVID. Ivermectin was effective against COVID. And now we all know that Fauci actually doubled his wealth during COVID, and the drug companies, they made big dollars on forcing people to take a shot that we also now know is still killing people. And it was also on that day that I knew I wouldn't be there for much longer, because I was not going to allow the gifts and the talents that God gave me to be used to mislead people, because I'm accountable to one God. It took a while, but light always exposes darkness. And that is the good news.
I'm telling you, if we do not govern ourselves, they're going to lead us down a rabbit hole we don't want to go to. They want to dictate how we think. The news media, the government, and everybody else is supposed to give us information. We, the citizens, are the ones that are supposed to think and make decisions. Don't let others do your thinking for you.